Hey everyone! Welcome to another episode of On the Flip Side. On the first Monday of every month, we talk about mindset. And every other Monday after that, it's all about real estate. My name is Diana Lizrazo, and today's guest speaker is Jacqueline Francis. Now, since this is the first Monday of the month, we are doing a talk on mindset. And as you can see, we are going to talk about women in a male dominated field and how to work around that. I'm so excited to hear about what Jacqueline has to say. I think it's going to be so exciting, a great topic. And if you guys want to see Jacqueline's profile, go on to realestateinvestorfam.com and you can see everything, who she is, what she does, what type of mentor she is, and you can start learning about her. And you can also get into the platform. It's a social networking platform and you can engage with other members in there. It's a fun platform for the real estate investing industry. So if you're a mentor, a professional, or obviously an investor, you want to be on this platform because it is transforming the way we all work. Now let's get on to inviting Jacqueline on. If you guys are ready to invite Jacqueline on, let's send her some thumbs up, let's send her some hearts, let's send her a lot of love, and let's get her on the stage. And let's see how many times I have to accept this so that I can get her on. Usually it seems like 20 times. Oh, I think we got you on. That was a quick one. Hey, Jacqueline.
That was the best one that we've had so
No.
far. It's worked so well. Hi.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's start off with just telling the viewers a little bit about yourself. What type of mentor are you? What kind of real estate investor are you? How long have you been doing all this? Anything you'd love to share?
Okay, absolutely. Hi, everyone, and happy Monday. It's the first Monday in March, and I am Jacqueline Francis. I am a self-image and mindset coach. If you want to know more about self-image, hop on my page and I can show you what that's all about. I'm also a real estate investor, and that is how I got into my profession. It led me to my soul's purpose. I'm also involved in land development. So not only do I own a multi-family apartment building with my husband, but we're also doing some land development and building a single family home. And our goal is to eventually build our own multi-family. And anyone who's on Diana's page, you know this is about real estate. You know this is everything and anything to do with real estate investing. But today we're talking all about mindset. We're talking about women empowerment because it is International Women's Day on Friday. And Diana, like, you are a powerhouse in this industry, but you came from a background where it is male dominated. And I'd love to, we can get into this conversation about how you took leadership in the industry that you came from before and how you're doing it right now.
Awesome. Yeah, and even like same thing with you. I mean, we're all powerhouses in our in as long as I think actually one of the things is kind of which I think we'll probably be leading to is as long as we know who we are and make that shine, I think is really the biggest thing. But yeah, for me, I seem to go into male dominated areas all the time. I don't know what it is. I love the challenge, maybe. I don't know. And I was an electrical engineer, so I was working in consulting. Majority of them were engineers, all men.
Wow.
And then now, real estate investing, same thing. I think there are a lot more women in it though on the engineering side though. So at least there's a little bit more women because it was pretty much a lot of like all men.
Yeah. Probably when you started to get in, did you find that it was more male dominated? And being a female in that space, how did you manage to, be heard and seen? How did you make your voice be heard?
As a real estate investor.
And in the engineering field?
Because in the engineering field, that's something I had to work hard at, I have to say, just because I came in, as an undergrad, and it was in consulting, so dealing with a lot of very smart men. And it was just actually, that was very intimidating for me. So for me, actually, and that's actually, I guess, where it came from to me before mindset knowledge was king. And that probably
Yeah.
evolved actually from being an engineer, you know, especially going into an environment where all the men were smarter than me, or at least the majority of them were. They were just, my teams were just dealing with men with a lot of experience, and they were already in it. Like I was a new graduate. So it was a very kind of like, I was just, and even on top of that, this company was a high turnover rate type of company. So
Oh,
if you are not good at what you do, you are going to get let go as quick as you got in there, you know? So it was one of those sink or swim types of situations. So I'm definitely not one for it to not meet a challenge, you know? So
yeah.
but that
Yeah.
knowledge, to be honest, I think because I was so behind, or at least felt behind, also as a woman, you have these things of, oh my God, if I complain, I'm going to be complained and judged as being a girly girl. And, you know, like I'm just making excuses and stuff, you
Yeah.
know? So it was just like, for me, it was like hustle, hustle, learn a lot. I need to get up to their caliber, and not even in the sense of the knowledge of the industry. It was actually also to be able to speak their language, because I was like, you know, I want to be able to hang out and talk to these guys and speak their language,
Yeah.
you know, and like what they liked and stuff. So they were a lot about the news and politics and stuff. So I was like, well, if this is what the conversations are like here. So I did do a lot of, I would say at the beginning, adapting into the environment, the company that I was working into.
Yeah, wow. How did then that experience transition into real estate when you now got into another industry where maybe you were finding it is male dominated as well? I mean, now you can see, yes, there's definitely more women investors. However, it's still, the ratios are not equal.
Oh yeah, 100% not equal. So coming in again, so because I just came into like I have to learn a lot, and to be honest, for me, learning knowledge and all this actually gives me confidence. So I learned in consulting a lot of, and I kind of moved up quickly in consulting because I realized that my kind of power was that I gain a lot of confidence when I know a lot. And so I started being able to get into management positions, or being able to manage teams. It just became comfortable to me because I started learning even behavioral type things where I knew what I didn't like with certain people, and or how to get them to, for example, to use that, like realizing that using them for what they're good at, and minimizing the amount of work that they're not good at, or they don't like, I should say, to do. So I started learning a lot of like these kind of things on how to best, I guess, use people so that they're happy
Yeah.
and they're doing what they like. And so these types of things really translated actually very well into the real estate side, because it's the same thing, you know, it's like you want to make sure you're, for example, teaming up with the right kind of
Right.
people that you need to have, you know, making sure my weaknesses are your strengths, you know, your
Yeah.
strengths are my weaknesses. If we both have weaknesses, like making sure that we're kind of a holistic group of people, that we are able to really manage a team properly and just get things moving the way we want to. So but my mindset at that time was, first of all, I thought mindset was poo poo to begin with. You know, I was like, all these weirdos talking about things I don't understand. I'm like, all I need to know is that I just need to understand real estate, and that's all that matters to me. I was kind of
Right.
like, I don't know what everyone else is talking about. But funny enough, finding my first mentor happened. I didn't even know about it, but mindset became a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And all I really understood about it at that time was just that I felt good. So I actually,
Yes.
to those, I think it was like Friday night classes or something. And I would always go because I just knew, like, I feel so good, you know, like who doesn't want to be pumped up, right?
Right. I mean, working on myself, it's so good. It changes the way that you show up. So, like you
Mhm.
said, you feel good about it. So, what you were doing was changing who you were from the inside.
Exactly, exactly. And so yeah, it wasn't until actually probably I would say 6 months in, 8 months in. And it wasn't even again myself because I was still thinking that knowledge was king, you know? And and it wasn't until someone made me reflect back onto what I had done. And when that happened, I felt like it was a shock to me because I felt that the person I was before I got into real estate would have never been able to do any of the things that I had done.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, one even thing, I hated reading books before. I don't think I had ever read a book, especially like a novel.
Yeah.
I mean, I still never read novels. Actually, I have zero interest in it, but I never really liked reading books. But I realized afterwards that it was, you have to find the right kind of books that make sense for you,
Oh,
that interest
yeah.
you. And for example, like one of the things was I really loved hearing about people's stories on how they've changed and what they've done to change.
Yeah.
And that's actually what really got me into reading books because they give you techniques there.
Yes. Yeah.
And that still goes on to my logical side. So I'm like, I can implement that, like that makes sense to me, And so it's just like little things, you start learning about yourself
You do. Yeah.
and you just start going and moving forward and realizing like that one of the things I feel like one of the things that especially I think out of university and coming into the workforce I did have, for some reason, a good understanding of myself. Like, I felt like university really taught me a lot about who I was. I got to
Yes.
actually find out who I was. I felt like in university, I was a bit of a misfit, and I never really felt like I fit in places. Whereas in university, because you were dealing with a much bigger group of people, and let's say not just engineers, dealing with so many different disciplines that I actually got to learn a lot about myself in university. And 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 I think just like in general, like yes, we're talking about women, but I feel like
Yeah.
this applies to men too, is that really getting to know yourself. And
Yes.
obviously we're always still continually learning, but like you get to learn certain parts of yourself. Like for example, like that. Like for me it was I love solution building. Like I like to create solutions for things. And that's why I got into consulting. That's why I got
Right.
into real estate. And I think when you do the things that you love, that really helps propel you
Of
forward.
course.
And if you're not, yeah, and if you're not, for example, trying to be someone else, which I feel like a lot of women are like, oh, I'm in a male dominated field, so I have to act like a man, I have to like behave like a man or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're not men, so it's
I
like
know.
because
But
it
that's
doesn't
the
work
thing,
out
right?
very well,
I know. But that's the thing. I think like because so number one, if you don't get to know yourself during those crucial years, we are always expanding and growing, right? Obviously, when you started university compared to who you are now, complete different identities, right? Throughout the transition of your 20s to your 30s, so different. But when you don't understand who you are, and some women do and some women don't, depending on when they get into the workforce, and you take on this role, it's a high paying job, it's a powerful role, and you are in the boardroom with men, you want a seat at that table. You want to be able to feel as equal to them. But I think that we always don't find that we have that voice yet. So you tend to compare, you tend to try to fit in by doing some of the things that you think might get you liked, right? And I think it's through that experience that you learn about, hey, no, you know what? I got to stand up for me. I got to use my voice because that is when I'm being my true authentic self. And that is when I can be really heard. I mean, I think it varies too from employer to the type of company that you're working in. And being really, how shall I say, um, I think determined and focused on why you are there. Why is it that you wanted that position and that career? And how are you in a position to now go out and help other people? Always coming back to service.
100%. And like you said, I like that you say that when you're questioning your surroundings, I think that's really great because if, for example, you hate your boss, for example, or you hate something around you, like you should be asking yourself why. Because what I know you'll say it is what is in your self-image? What are you telling yourself? Like
Yeah.
you're having a
You
conflict, right? Because you're in
are.
a situation you don't want to be in, but you've put yourself in that situation that you don't want to be in. So
Yeah.
clearly there's a lesson that needs to be learned there
Yeah.
that that tells you there's some type of what's the word? Like self
like
um
like there's some sort of self-doubt, or there's something that you're resisting, so that maybe you could be creating this issue or this problem that might not even exist. But
mhm,
sometimes though, like, you could be working in a position and then your management changes, so you don't even have control over that, and now you're working with someone that doesn't really see eye to eye. You can see that maybe they're a little sexist. At that point, you take responsibility for your actions. What else can you do?
mhm,
Right? Like, what else can
mhm,
you do to be heard? I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that before, but I think a lot of women would feel powerless. And this is what then they say to themselves, well, I'm going to keep myself small, because if I'm not seen or heard, maybe they won't pick on me. Maybe I won't, get a lesser score, like whatever that equates to. And this is where I think it's important. Companies should understand mindset, should understand the bosses need to manage the bosses in order to manage the employees. They are the front line. But if you
mhm,
have somebody up top that has a terrible attitude, that blames, that judges, and then they pass it down to that level management, and then that level management passes it down, like, what type of work environment are you creating? What is that like
mhm.
for the employees, right? Men and women.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is the women that tend to not speak up, to hide behind their work, or just quitting because they just can't take it anymore.
Exactly. And actually, even if someone comes into a management role where maybe you don't like what's going on there, I think like what you said is some of the things are very important because the usually when you're hiring someone in, it's for a like there is either a cultural change needs to happen because maybe there's
Hmm.
something going on wrong with the team and they
Yeah.
need to change. And one of the things that we hate the most, we hate change. you know and and then the thing is then you start also going towards seeing all the negative aspects to a person
Yeah.
instead of the positive one. So I feel like again, I feel like it's always asking yourself the questions, and also as a woman, like you said, being able to speak out, because that's another thing that I noticed that um women do have problems with. Because for example, like let's say something with me in consulting, I every year got a raise, and that's
Amazing.
because I always went to go ask for my raise,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's a good
For
point. So
me,
can I just say something right here before you continue? What you said, asking for what you want. A lot of us will have judgments around that and be like, oh, I can't ask. The answer is going to be no. I just started 6 months ago, or whatever that is. So what you said right there is always knowing what you want and just being able to ask for it. That is like number one to even getting what you want, having that in your circumference,
and I'll
right?
give
Sorry.
you
Yeah.
another example of a friend of mine actually that got hired on, and she never got a raise.
Mm.
And the reason she never got a raise, because she told me she never had got a raise. I was surprised actually. I found out when she told me that she didn't get a raise. And you know what the reason why? I mean, again, this is my opinion of why I think she didn't get a raise. Ego. The
Oh,
boss should know who I am, how amazing I am at working, so they'll give me a raise if they think I'm a good employee. And I'm just like, we're
wow.
a consultant firm. We're in a cutthroat go, go, go.
Yeah.
If your bosses don't know you're unhappy and they think you're happy with their salaries, why are they going to change it? If
Right.
so So especially in this specific company, it was very much like that, where it's they like if you didn't ask, you didn't
Yeah.
get. And like that. I remember one time we were in a year where it was really bad for I think the IT industry or aerospace industry. I forget which side because I moved back and forth. But and so we didn't have very much work, and everyone's like, oh, like we're not going to be getting any money, no
Ooh.
raises, blah blah blah. I still went to go ask
Good
to see,
for
and I
you.
wasn't like forceful or anything. It was like a meeting. Hey, just very generic and ask. They never said yes or no in the meeting. They usually never do, to be honest. At least in
Yeah.
my situations, they always just kind of like take what you say. They give you an explanation, and I'm not gonna go. I'm not a beggar or anything, but I was just like, I was just wondering if I'm getting my raise. I didn't even ask for how much it was. I
Yeah.
was just,
You
very
put
generically just
it out
wondering what
there.
was happening. And I got
Yeah.
my raise that year, and I think there was only a few select people who got raises that year. And the funny thing is, those other people there were people complaining. They would complain, and I remember telling them, like, why don't you go ask to get a raise then? Instead of complaining. They never did
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like you have to, if you feel like you're doing a good job, if you feel like, you have to have confidence in yourself, confidence in what you say to be able to ask for things. And yeah, that is something that is very hard. For some reason, I've always, for me,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because I was one of those people that worked way too much. It's like I wanted to get up on par with people. So it's like, man, for everything that I did, how much work I had done, I felt very deserving of it, I guess, because I was just kind of like, I like sweat and tears into that company.
Yes. So you're like, hello, you know what? I don't expect you to recognize me for my achievement. Well, I do, but you know what? I can't wait on you to say, hey, do you want to raise? Let me take that ownership into my hand. Let me take responsibility for the money that I make, for the actions that I take in my job to say to you, hey, boss, lady, man, whatever it is, are we getting a raise? Am I getting a raise this year? Look what I've done. Like you're initiating those conversations, and that takes courage. Absolutely. That takes confidence. And for people that are listening, like if you don't feel that you're a confident person right now, start to see yourself as confident. Like, what makes you not confident? That you're telling yourself that you're not confident because you're looking at old stories from the past and you're feeling less than? Well, you're now living in this identity that doesn't serve you. You're not moving ahead. So, how can you then become more confident? By assuming the identity of someone that's confident. If you want to go after your goals and your dreams, you have to take action. You have to become somebody new almost because it's new for you because you've never been there. You've never done those things that this version of you now needs to do to move forward in your life. What have you done to gain confidence and to build that within yourself as you continue to grow personally, professionally in your life?
100%. And then again, this one I think is a woman problem is we do ask way too many questions inside our heads and we talk ourselves down. I think that's like a really good quality that maybe I would say at least a good quality that you should take from a man is that they're much more action taking than us. And I think that's like a built-in feature of them. They're just like already going on running and you're just kind of like still sitting there as you're like, what happened? And they're already out there working. So I feel like that's one thing that is good thing to take is, we love to ask. And I'm saying I do too. I mean, I think that's also why I get hired for things too, actually, because I ask a lot of questions or I'm very good at like analyzing and things because I ask lots of questions, but knowing when to use it and when not to use
Mm-hmm.
it, or the question, but get that answer, and not from yourself.
Right?
Get it from somewhere
Exactly.
outside.
Yeah, that's so true. So let me know what have you done to build confidence in yourself, right? Because I do
Mm-hmm.
feel it's something you have to build.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we're never not born with these things, but throughout our life, we tend to lose parts of ourselves. And then later on, we start to have to build it back up, right? So then you're
Mhm.
building the skill and that muscle of the confidence within you.
Yeah. And I think that's where I say getting to know yourself is very important because that higher purpose, that one that goes across all that there's a you have a purpose where it's like I would say like your life purpose. And since young, I've for some reason always known my purpose, and I've always applied it into all my areas of life. And usually that's kind of like one word that just kind of works throughout your life. And like
Mhm.
that for me, it's like solution building, right? I became an engineer specifically for that reason because I wanted my brain to be used. I wanted to be like always thinking and problem solving. Like for me, it was so interesting. Same thing in the real estate side. It
Right.
was again, it's like all about solving problems. Like, and if that one became more people oriented, which is very interesting. So that was like a new area of learning for me. But again, like solving problems, finding solutions for different situations. So I think it to be honest, is like you have to find out what you're amazing at.
Yeah,
In my,
it's
I
true.
think that's what it was for me, and you hone that in, and that's like for me what gave me confidence was just because
Mhm.
for me it was all about knowledge and specifically things where I get to create solutions because I love that. I found it so interesting.
I love that. So it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, being solution based and because you loved being able to find those solutions to solve problems, and every time you did, it built your confidence.
Mhm.
So every time, it's like every stepping stone, you get a little bit stronger, you get a little bit more stronger, and now you have behind you this whole trail of evidence that if you ever in a moment of feeling low, you could be like, oh my gosh, but I did this, oh but I did this. And it's so easy to tap back into those moments and those feelings of when you were able to problem solve. You can build that confidence back up. You can start feeling more empowered within yourself. And that's a great
Mhm.
thing, because I think that sometimes we number one, we discredit the good things that we've done in our lives, and we always tend to focus on the negative, right? Which it seems like we're just prone to focus more on the bad than on the good. That being said, if we as women are able to look back when we are in moments of transition, or in moments of when we are feeling low, look at where in your life you've been confident. Look at where in your life you were able to solve a problem, or just look at where in your life you felt really good. You felt a moment of, hey, you know what? This was a moment that I felt my best at. And then tap into that, right? And I think it can really uplift you and change your mood in that moment, where then you can go out and feel much better about, you know, whatever it is that was keeping you low at that time.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I was just actually thinking as you're talking about it, at least in my situation, I guess how I was able to get to know myself and learn more. And I noticed this in the real estate side of things. Because I didn't really notice it before, I guess, because as you're a kid, like you don't bring those awarenesses. I don't know where
No.
my learning came from, but in real estate, because it was such a drastic change,
Yes.
there was a lot of learning that what what I realized with me was, kind of like you said, like I created a self image. And because I didn't really know the area very well, I didn't really know what I was fully getting myself into. Like I kind of did because I was already in real estate, but I didn't know to the level as an entrepreneur how I was getting into it. I did build like a self image and I did copy other people. And again, because we're in a male dominated field, it was buying that expensive car that
Yeah.
I had zero interest in because I have no interest in cars. But to be honest, it was the only thing that like everyone else was doing it. So I was just like, okay, let me just use it. But then as I started evolving and changing, then you start picking out, okay, that car had zero interest. My interests are, for example, let's say traveling, or I had all these other interest things that would motivate me to push forward. But it's like once you have that thing, you start. working towards, you start realizing it doesn't make sense, but you start really, that's also a good way of learning about yourself because then you
Yeah.
start realizing, okay, I don't like that, but I can actually work towards this thing or that thing. So it's also
Yes.
so I think it's also you just kind of you do start copying people, maybe someone you look up to, right? They're like, oh, they're doing this, and you just copy them because again, you're creating that self-image. You're creating an image, and it the first one never makes any sense to you. But at least it's like a little guiding light, and then you start tweaking it and changing
Yes.
it and
Yes.
modifying it. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, this is who I am. This is what it is.
Yes.
These are all the things that
Exactly.
I want to be.
Exactly. I love that. And
For
there's nothing
you.
wrong with like modeling after people, especially people that are more successful and you are walking in those footsteps. You're like, "Hey, you know what? I really admire the qualities of this person. I can identify with X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's what I also want to achieve." So then yes, you start to build that image of what you would like to be. So that way you can slowly start to take steps to be that person every single day. You tweak it, you refine it, you see what works, you see what doesn't. And I think it's through the repetition and through the belief and faith that, you know what, this is what I want. Because you're essentially saying, I want this. You're putting it out there. So that way it can you start to slowly become it, right? It'll
Mhm.
take as much time as the desire that you put into wanting to change and to start picking up better qualities about yourself. And, self-image is in every area of your life. It's personality. It's, how other people see you. If you want to be seen as, again, going back to confidence, you start to pen that out and say, I'm a very confident person. People see me as confident. I rise. Like something I went to actually, this really amazing women's it was called First Sundays and it was all about women empowerment yesterday. It was so phenomenal. And there was one lady, she was in a very high position, who worked at TD Bank in like the supporting of women's businesses. And she had said a quote that really stuck with me, and that's, when I rise, I lift, right? And when you can better yourself, you then can help other people better themselves. You give people the permission to then rise also because you're shining your light. You're stepping into your best self because you're loving yourself. You're loving this new person that you see that's, out there in the world taking action. And then other people see you and they're like, is there something different about you? She looks different. Did she cut her hair? And it's this like, oh, well, if she can do it. Oh, maybe I can do it too. Oh, I love what she's doing. You're giving people that permission to say that they can do it too. So you're lifting other people, but it starts with the work you need to do on yourself. Because no
Mhm.
one's going to see you walking around being miserable and be like, oh, I want to be like that miserable person over there that's always complaining and that's sad, right? So when
Mhm.
we have people in our lives that we can look up to, absolutely, let me borrow some of your qualities because I admire that in you. So if I admire that in you, I must have that as well because we mirror each other. So if I can see that in you, I must see it in myself. But how do I start to do that, right? So going back to what you said, you kind of start to create that person. What is she like? And I would advise anyone on here right now, if you're looking to change something in your life, create the person you want to be. We are ever changing, and it's okay to change. There's this stigma around, oh no, don't change. Or if you get like a new job or you get more money, people always say, oh, I'm never going to change. I'm always going to be the same. And before I used to agree with that until I was like, no, that doesn't make sense because every version of you has to take on a different identity. You have to change. You can't be the same person with the high paying job. It just doesn't work because that person is a different version of you. So you rise to, okay, maybe you need to wake up a little bit earlier. Maybe you are more concerned with your health now, right? It's the transitions we all go through to keep expanding and evolving in life. So you must change. You have to. It's a part
Yeah,
of
and I would say
evolution.
it's not even have to, it's happening,
It's
right?
yeah.
Change happening. And now it's your choice to
Yeah.
decide what direction you're going to go in.
Yeah.
if you decide that you're not changing, whatever that means, what is that actual? Because you are changing. I feel like I like the example of, you watch TV, right? And at the beginning, probably a lot of people don't remember anymore because we just like TV all the time. But, before maybe you could watch TV for 30 minutes, an hour, right? But remember, in everything you do, you're building that stamina, right? So
Yeah.
you're deciding, are you going to be building stamina in watching TV and being able to watch TV for longer periods of time? Or are you going to build that stamina in different areas of your life that actually could probably put more positive things for you? Could it be your attitude? Could it be your knowledge? Could
Yeah.
it be your health? Could it, like, it's going into areas of things that how can you improve yourself, improve your lifestyle, and have like a more positive and healthy lifestyle for yourself. And in that, and so it's like you decide in which area you're changing
Yes,
because
you do.
change is always happening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's up to you to decide if you're going to, evolve with the change or sit back and let change happen and you're resisting it constantly,
And
right?
COVID
And you're fighting
was a
against
very
it.
good example of that, actually. COVID was forced change. We did
Yes.
not like
Right? Yeah.
it.
And
You want to be
back to your
forced to
point,
change, or you want to just make the changes yourself?
right. I know. Going back to what you said earlier, some people are not even consciously aware that sitting in front of the TV for an hour or 3 hours, they should be doing something different. Because sometimes that's just what they're used to. And that's comfortable. And that's, oh, I've had such a hard day at work. I want to sit down and I want to spend the rest of my night watching TV because that's what makes me feel good. And hey, if that's what you choose to do, go ahead. If that makes you feel happy, no problem. However, right, for people that are like me and you, we want to keep expanding. So for us, like that doesn't fit into our lives. Sure, a little bit of entertainment here and there can work, but not spending my entire evening 5 days a week, 6 days a week, enslaved to watching TV. And don't get me wrong, before I started to dive really deep into self development, I didn't know any better. So that's what brought me joy. That's what was comfortable. But how could I get out of my comfort zone if I wasn't aware of wanting to change or knowing that if I did these things, it will better like I can get better as a person and as an individual.
Hmm. And that's a huge thing, actually, is taking that leap of faith and again, building that stamina in the right areas. We're very good at building stamina in like, let's say like watching TV, or eating or something.
Because it's
But
so
it's like one,
unconscious.
yeah.
They're just habits that we just do, right? It
But you
takes
can
more
build up
effort.
that stamina, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's more and more and more, and you don't realize because there's small baby steps that come to more. Whereas if you're going in the direction of not thinking of it as work, because I feel like people's definition of work is also the issue, or people's definition of improving themselves. They think it's like, oh my God, it's so much work. It's so hard, like, oh my God, but I feel like you have to change the definitions because just because, for example, you're learning something new or you're trying to improve something new, I think it's also important to realize that you have to, if something is feeling hard, maybe understanding why it's hard. Are you just mentally going negative because you don't want to learn it because you're going through that problem that we all go where whenever we do change, we're just mentally trying to talk ourselves out of it,
It's the
and
ants in the pants,
yeah,
the automatic negative
generally
thoughts.
generally it's in our minds like to take the actions isn't, and you notice when the breakthroughs happen, right? Because all of a sudden you're like dragging your feet, you're like, why is this such a mission and a half? And then all of a sudden everything clicks one day, and then it becomes easier. And it's one, having the stamina, and also it's learning within ourselves, in our minds, to slowly start removing those negative thoughts or minimizing them so that it doesn't get harder. Because generally, everything that is hard is more, to be honest, the mental hardness and not is actually not physically hard.
It's
And
all in what
just
we
to
tell
tell like us,
ourselves.
pardon?
It's all in what we tell ourselves, right?
Mhm.
So if you are saying to yourself something is hard, if I'm telling you, if I'm telling everybody around me that the thing that I'm doing is hard, it is going to be hard because I keep whatever you choose to believe, whatever you assume to be true is what's going to show up for you, right? So what you see, what you speak of, and what you are asking for is more hard. So your
Exactly.
mind is not going to get around finding it easy or finding an easier way because you're putting out there, oh, this is hard.
You're
This is hard.
looking
Oh,
for
why is
the
this so
hardest
hard?
ways
Yeah.
to do
So
things.
then
Yeah.
it's then like again you're fighting this resistance because you're trying to want to make the thing easy but you're not realizing that the words out of your mouth, the vibration you're putting yourself in, is bringing more hard to you. So what you ask for you're going to find.
Hmm.
we
Exactly.
we have it in reverse. So it's like we should be telling ourselves, you know what, this is something that I can figure out. This is going to take me much less time than I thought it was going to. Like reframing
Yeah.
the way we look at things.
Brainwashing thing just needs to happen. You see negative thoughts going into your mind, you need to go in brainwashing mode and just start doing the opposite of what that says.
And coming back to like, women in business that are entrepreneurs, it takes that courage to get over some of those negative thoughts and say, you know what, I'm going to build this. And going to that networking event yesterday, it continues to fill me to see how many women are out there doing their absolute best, like opening up businesses, and they're thriving, and don't like, they do get those thoughts, they do feel sometimes less than, that imposter syndrome, but they're able to find a way to keep taking that step forward, one foot in front of another, and then you gain the momentum, you keep going, people recognize you, and you start to build yourself up. And that's so important because we are now, as we do this, we're leaving behind evidence for the next generation. So my daughters can see me, coming on lives, doing real estate, being a coach, helping other women change their lives. And I they may not tell me, but they are picking that up through the things that I'm doing. Or,
Mhm.
you, for example, let's say you go and you teach some of this in like a college, or you do a program. There are other women that you're leading because you're leading yourself first. And that's the most important thing, I think, as women. We lead ourselves first in our businesses, in our lives, and then we make room and space for other people to say, hey, I can do that too. Let me start a business.
Mhm.
It's not as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah. And I wanted to add on to that, that you will see things change around you
Yeah.
when you just start making the changes for yourself. And I wanted to give a really funny example that happened to me. This was when I was just starting to learn about all the different real estate strategies and trying to figure out like which one was the one I liked and everything like that. I was taking all these courses, and I don't know how long, maybe 3 months in or something into those courses, or the mentorship, not really the courses, but the mentorship. I'm in it, and I'm very in it and doing a lot of things in it. And then all of a sudden, my husband gets a call, and he's talking to one of his friends, and he starts talking about cash flow and like flipping. And and he's not involved in any of this. And that's when I feel like that's where you see that how you impact the people around you, and how, for example, the people around you may even start changing or something. And it was the funniest thing because he hung up, and I'm like, where did you learn those words from? I'm just like, you're not even involved in real estate. And he's like, I'm trying to help you out. He's like, I'm gonna try to help you out. And I was just like, and he's like, I listened, and he, like, it was the funniest thing, but it was also very revealing to me
Yeah.
that you change you, and
Hmm.
you'll see that everything around you changes. That was like the most, that moment was so impactful for me because it was exactly that. I had changed, I had evolved, and I saw it, right? Through my husband, I saw it.
Yeah,
I mean,
firsthand,
yeah,
right there.
I saw it firsthand, and I was just like, "Oh my God!" And he saw, again, like you said, he saw my confidence, he saw my drive, and he's just like, "Wow, I want to be a part of that. I want to
Yeah.
help her out. She clearly has something going on that I want to be a part of." And so you start seeing those things. If people start emulating you or start supporting you and helping you, that's a very good indicator that you are on the right path and things are going good. And it goes vice versa, right? If things are
Yeah.
not going well, then again, you take advantage of that knowledge
Hmm.
and you're saying to yourself, where do I need to change? Because clearly something is going wrong. Either I still don't know myself yet.
Hmm.
I'm still maybe not fully changing. I think I'm changing, but I'm not changing, or I'm struggling to change. It's seeing your surroundings is a very good it's a very good view of what is really happening around you, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And this is what I always say, your inner world is reflected on the outside, right? So if you're not if seeing things that you like in the life that you live, you got to go within and say, okay, how can I make the change? Because when you change from within, everything around you starts to change. And it's something, sometimes it's so simple, right? It's just carrying a better attitude, looking at things a little bit differently than you would have normally looked at things, loving yourself a little bit more. And these subtle shifts make such a huge impact on the world around, being a little bit more confident, right? Because then other people can start to pick up on these things. But you're doing this for you. You're doing this because you are improving your life, because you want something better for your life. And the more you continue to do that, the more change you start to take on, and everything around you will change as well.
100%. Any final marks or like summarization of what we talked about, or final tips for the
I
viewers?
know. Well, this Friday is International Women's Day. So for everybody that's joined us, celebrate yourself, celebrate life, celebrate where you've come from, how far that you have gone in your life's journey, and know that you still have so much more to uncover in your life. Be a voice that can light up the room. Be a voice that you are encouraging others and supporting others to rise with you as you rise. So yeah.
I love it. Love it. So if you guys are looking for help with creating your self-image, for just figuring out who you are, then you definitely want to see what Jacqueline's up to. You want to see what she's going on to. She's going to be tagged on here, so you'll be able to DM her, just see what she's up to. And if you love my show and you love to see what I'm up to, then definitely follow me too. Jacqueline, thank you so much. It was so fun to chat with you.
Thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day, Diana. You are killing it.
So are you. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. Bye, everyone. We'll see everyone in the
Bye.
next episode. Bye, everyone.